Oh my God, this is amazing.
This is your moment to shine.
Well, I can definitely say I don't have any experience. I'm so sorry.
Misnomer on my part.
I mean, I'm a good fan of Lord of the Rings, and I've never played D&D though. I never have. So.
You have yet to.
Are you a video gamer though?
I'm a little bit of one. I mean,
oh right, we were doing it together.
I have to be really
1 point for Team Thomas.
I'm going to try and stay centrist on this. So that being said, thank you for humoring us. What's on your mind today? What's going on?
All right, real quickly, first off, if I may, Eric, dude, I love you. You are amazing. You and Jamie do a great job on Talk Heathen.
Shout out to everybody else's shows.
Love you too. I like this guy.
Christy, you and Megan do a great job.
Oh, well, thank you.
Trying to get through every single episode that you guys have done. And then Thomas, I just got to say, I think it was the call with Darth Hawkins, I think. I feel you. I saw that video of you guys going back and forth, and I try not to be such a aggressive person, but I'm gonna tell you right now, if I were right there with him, I would have punched him in the face and told him, "Shut the fuck up." But that's just me.
All right. Yeah. I think you're going to need to send me that link.
I've been on Talk Heathen 3 times now, and I'm still getting feedback just about that one call.
Yeah.
Like it's
dude, you know what?
Yeah.
You know what? In my opinion, he, just like you said, he likes to interrupt every 5 seconds. I listened to the whole thing, and you were completely right in my opinion. So, but that's just my opinion.
Well, thanks.
So,
my finger was dancing around the mute button a few times.
Oh, dude, I would have done the same thing. Okay, so how to best go into this? So, first off, to the screener, I'm very sorry because I felt like it was very hard to explain what I was going through. But
sure.
For you guys, so I'm an atheist. I've been an atheist since I think the end of last year, and me and my girlfriend, she's been a Christian her entire life. The only problem is her parents. Separate story, but her parents, I know for a fact, I don't think properly taught her sex education and stuff like that. So every time that we have that conversation, hopefully I can get her to watch this. And if I can, honey, I love you and I'm sorry. I feel like they didn't teach her properly because there's a lot of stuff that we had to go through. Now, in the past, we have actually, we've tried a couple of things. She wants to wait until marriage for sex, and I completely understand. And I'm, in my words, I've had my quote unquote fun, and I'm completely willing because I love her and I want her to be happy. I want our relationship to work out, and if this is what needs to happen, then it's what needs to happen. I'm completely okay with that. But I've tried to get her to, for lack of a better word, and if I'm being a jackass, please let me know. For lack of a better word, I've been trying to grow her up, if that makes any sense. Like, I talked to her about a little bit about masturbation. I talked to her a little bit about, what women sometimes do to pleasure themselves. And then she's had questions for me, and I've tried my best to answer them completely. But I asked her, well, would it be the worst thing if we tried maybe like a little bit of foreplay? Like, we don't have to go all the way. We do not have to do that. But like, if I went down there beneath your pants or something like that, would that be wrong? She's let me go down there a little bit, but the other thing is she does not want to have it. She says she doesn't want to have an orgasm until marriage. And in my opinion, it's like, yeah, exactly. Like I just, whenever we get married,
I'm sure that wedding night will be like immediate attraction. Everything will go perfectly smoothly. She will have a vaginal orgasm almost immediately, and there won't be any learning curve or problems going in.
Well, see that I thought about that, but the thing is she has what I think is called a hormonal imbalance that she's actually taken birth control for.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
I don't know if that. She's told me multiple times that it's working.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's working because she says she gets turned on, but of course I can't read her mind, and I don't want to keep asking, hey, is this turning you on? What are you thinking? What are you doing?
Are you hot now? How about now?
Exactly, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. Like, are you getting turned on? What's going on? And then her say, would you shut up and just stop it? Which never has she ever done that. But I just, I'm kind of, I worry about it a little bit because my paranoia, which is kind of stupid, but my paranoia is on our wedding, like after we get married and once we're on our honeymoon and stuff, whenever we try it, what I told her is my worry is that we're going to be going at it, but you're not going to be able to get turned on enough. And then, you know, I would like to be able to do some foreplay because I like to give. I honestly don't really care about receiving. I like to give, and I don't want to go at least 15 to half an hour trying to figure out what turns her on just to figure out, oh, well, this isn't doing it. This isn't doing it. Like, okay, well, what is doing it? Because after a while, you know, you start to lose, I feel like you start to lose that momentum.
Well, you're going to get that issue whether it's the first time you have sex before or after your wedding night. You're going to have, you know, a learning curve. You're going to have time that you're trying to figure out what she's into, and you know, she's trying to figure out what you're into. What I'm more concerned about is, you know, and I wouldn't get your hopes up that the wedding night is just going to be sparks flying. It's going to be amazing. Like, honestly, my wedding night was shit. And no, it's fine. Like, you know, beforehand, we didn't go into it waiting till marriage, and we had some great sex before marriage, but it was just, there was all the stress from the wedding and getting everything set up and prepared. And then like we were driving off to our honeymoon that same night, and we stopped in a hotel, and we were both exhausted, and we both, you know, been drinking some at the wedding, and we were just completely tired. And it was like, we're expected to suddenly have this Hollywood style, just, you know, the candles are just glowing and everything is, you know, spectacular. It's kind of a pipe dream. And I don't mean to say that to make you stress about it, but
lower that.
Almost
lower those expectations just a little bit.
Yeah, just so that there's not a lot of pressure on that one sexual experience, because that's the biggest thing that stood out for me. I think Frodo too. We're looking at a lot of different pieces here, and maybe pieces that really should be talked about with some sort of premarital counselor, because there is a lot to dive into. That being said, if we chunk it up a little bit, I want to let you know, I don't think we're into full-blown asshole territory. I think, though, that we're circling that drain, and I want to recognize that there's reason for fear here. And I don't think that you're an asshole, and I'm not saying that in the least bit, but I do think that this is a situation that is going to lend itself to some pretty asshole-ish behavior that would be very human and reasonable to feel. Because, yeah, you are planning on building a life with somebody, you don't know about your sexual compatibility. All signs currently point towards perhaps not great, you know? And I don't know that that's true, and I'm not necessarily speaking that onto your relationship, but I would think that there's room for concern. I would be, you're telling me that you're feeling a little bit nervous. I think I'm telling you, be very nervous. Don't break up, don't force sex, don't make any crazy life decisions because an asshole stranger on the internet told you to. But I'm going to go ahead and ring that bell a little bit and flash some warning lights.
And I would, I'd say communication. Okay, communication.
We've had a lot of talks about, and like I said, I've tried not to bring it up so much because, again, with my personality, to be honest with you, she's the first woman in my life. We've dated 2 other times in the past, but overall, she's the first woman that I have never felt like she's going to ever cheat on me or anything like that. So I don't want to mess it up. But then again,
Frodo, can I ask how old you are?
Well,
you what?
Can I ask how old you are?
Oh, I'm 25 and she is 23, about to be 24.
Yeah, so you're 25 and this is the first person that you've met that you feel isn't going to cheat on you.
Right.
You have a lot of life left and a lot of people that you'll encounter and that you'll meet. And if this relationship doesn't work out, there's going to be other people who aren't going to cheat on you. I keep running into people who think that they've found like the one, and that's just, it's such a false notion. There are some people that are more and less compatible, and there are people who you find that are less compatible that you can really work at it and make the relationship work and become a wonderful, loving, perfect relationship. Well, perfect is a bit of a shoddy term.
There's no one, there's the 0.9 that we round up to 1 or the 0.4 that we round up to 1, depending on our expectations for ourselves.
But just because you found someone that you feel is, you know, they're not going to cheat on you, you're setting the bar kind of low if that's all you're looking for. There's a lot more to a relationship that makes it good and healthy and wonderful and amazing. And I don't know about the rest of you guys, but I wouldn't buy a car unless I test drive it. And I certainly wouldn't have a relationship where I get married to someone and I have no idea if we're sexually compatible or not. It's just...
Yeah, see, that's the thing. We've had, like I said, I've kind of heard that saying before, and no offense, I've tried to push it off because, you know, we both agree, and I think you touched on this a little bit earlier. I can't remember precisely, but sex isn't the only thing in the relationship, and in my personality, I've done everything to make sure that that's not the only thing. And even with, you know, everybody in my life, my coworkers, my friends, my family, well, okay, let's just say mainly my brother, that have asked me, you know, have you done this? Or, you know, have you gotten in their pants, blah, 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 any stupid ass shit like that. I've said, well, you know, that's no, but I mean, come on now.
Well, if this is the path that you're going to take, it is a very long one. And if you think this is going to take a few, you know, weeks or months, you're dead wrong. It's going to take a long, long time, and it's going to take a lot of patience, and it's going to take a lot of working together. And I think that you are, if this is the path that you want to take, you are setting yourself up well by opening yourself up and making yourself available to have these kinds of conversations that are open and accepting when it comes to sex. And it really, really does help. I know that just being that kind of person who's open in talking about sex is something that helps. Not even in the relationship that you're in. I've had more than one female friend who we wound up taking a field trip to the sex shop for a first sex toy because they're like, I don't know what, you know what, but you get there.
Wow.
You know,
when you said we took a road trip to the sex stop, I really thought that was going to be some kind of euphemism for like fooling around with a friend.
No.
It took me a moment. I apologize.
No.
We're talking about literally, that supportive role. Yeah,
it's about talking about, you know, masturbation is okay.
And
you know, and then eventually, well, I don't know. What if this? What if that? Well, do you want to go? I'll take you. Okay, cool. And we get the first toy, and then you know, a couple weeks later, I see them, and they're just like, the best day ever. You know,
and that could happen. That could happen. You could get married, and you know, she finds out that, oh my God, this is amazing, and she just wants to try anything and everything with you.
I would actually say do that well before you get married. You know, take your time. If this is what you want to do, just know it's a long road. It's going to take a long time. And you are well within your rights, just as my co-hosts have said, that if you decide that's not the path that you want to take, that does not make you an asshole.
The only thing I really want to tag on is I agree with everything Eric is saying about communication. I think that that's very important. But as we kind of hinted at with the last caller, the dynamic that I see over and over and over in couples therapy is the guy's saying, well, we need to communicate more. We need to communicate more. And the woman is communicating that she doesn't want to be hassled about sex anymore. And the guy's like, but we need to communicate, which means that we're going to have very uncomfortable conversations where we both are just going to squirm, and I'm going to do all of the talking, and I'm going to beg you to talk, but you're not gonna. And instead of seeing that as a form of communication, I'm going to say, well, she just doesn't communicate. She's not trying to fix this. I'm all on my own here. And, you know, that is a dynamic that we see over and over and over again in our culture. I mean,
would you say that's almost a form of delusion?
You can, yeah, absolutely. You can take what I just said and
like they are the perfect person, but they just haven't really opened up and communicated that yet.
Right. If they would just tell me, I'm sure they would say exactly what I want to hear. I mean, we've basically, in the course of this conversation, written the pilot for a CBS sitcom, right? Like, this is the basic aspects of our sex in our culture. So I would very much warn you that while it's good to be available and it's good to communicate and it's good to stress communication, hear everything that they say. And silence says a lot. And
oh, God.
There's also value in recognizing that our sexual journeys may involve other people. And that can be really beautiful and exciting. I mean, I'm in an amazing relationship now where we're both introducing each other to crazy new things that we never thought we'd be interested in, and there's so much fun in that. But there needs to be two engines on two separate cars. You know, even if y'all are both headed in the same direction and you're going together, you can't give her your energy. You can't transfer your libido over to her. You need to trust her to be headed down the road that she wants to go on. And if she is pumping the brakes constantly, there's room for patience. There's room for kindness and acceptance. And, you know, we're not always going to be perfectly matched, like Thomas said. You know, there's no the one. But it might be worth noting that if she's just not interested and you're kind of dragging and towing her rather than following along with her, that's something to really take notice of. And all I can tell you is that if somebody had told me that at 25, my life would be very different. And I wish that I was calling into shows like this at 25. So again, I'm not suggesting that you need to break everything because a bunch of strangers on the internet started, you know, raising their warning lights. But I would really encourage you to listen to that silence, figure out what it means, ask her what it means, and keep it in mind and avoid that delusion that Thomas is mentioning.
And Shannon Q made a really good point in the chat just now. She said, perhaps have a more in-depth conversation to uncover why that's off limits. Why does she want to wait till marriage? Is it a thing that she's worried about what society thinks? It's a purity thing? If so, kind of break that down and explore it. If it's more of a libido thing, that may be an issue once you get married.
Well, and it's important to notice you said she's a Christian, but that can mean a lot of things to a lot of people. I mean, the Christians that I grew up with would definitely not marry atheists. So that Christianity, what her faith means to her, where that's coming from, what restrictions come with that, that's also an important conversation to be looking at, because it may mean that sex is only procreation forever and always. And that might be cool with you. It might not be.
Is she going to want to not use birth control and have 10 babies and only do the missionary position? And when you bust out of the bathroom like Tarzan on your wedding night, she's going to be freaked out and traumatized and scarred at like all of the freak stuff that you want to do? That's something to think about too.
Maybe not the Tarzan loincloth on the first one.
Hold on a second. I've got this mental image of Thomas now like Tarzan.
It was too specific to be improvised, right?
Right?
Yeah, that felt very telling.
Jane.
She knows that I'm deeply. I can't say religiously, but she knows that I'm deeply into the Flash. So if anything, I'm gonna pop out of the room like I'm the Flash. I'm not gonna finish the Flash. He might be, but I'm still the Flash, baby. That's what's going on.
Hey man, you know, 2 seconds of heaven is better than 1 second of heaven.
Cheers on the Flash, man. That is an awesome character.
Is that Barry Allen Flash?
Yes.
We'll get into that later. But yeah, I know we just threw about 10,000 different things at you, but hopefully some of it sticks and starts bringing up the right questions for you.
Right. Yeah, like you said, this is definitely it's definitely conversations that I have to have with her. I mean, we've had conversations, but maybe we need to go a bit more in depth in it, and hopefully and perhaps maybe I should, again, like you said, without I'm not being the asshole, but then again, it would be important to talk about it and see what the actual reasoning is. Because, I mean, she's given reasons, but I can't read her mind. But, you know, it is what it is, I suppose. So
sure. Well, it's a lot to take on. Best of luck to you. Just keep going and remember that it's okay if things don't work out. It's great if they do. It's wonderful if they work out, but they aren't perfect because they're never going to be. And that's cool too.
Right.
Sex is complicated.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you guys so much.
Yeah, absolutely. You have a great night. Thanks so much for calling in. So nice. I do want to point out, a friend of mine used to drive us crazy because he was just this incredible pool sharp, and he would always be trying to teach us stuff, and I have no coordination. And I remember getting very frustrated when he had showed me how to line up my shot and how to get it just right, and the ball went exactly where I didn't think it would. And I'm just sitting there getting frustrated, like, why doesn't this game follow the rules of physics? And he kind of laughs and he looks at me and he says, well, it does follow the rules of physics. It just follows all of them. You know, it's not just the simple geometry. There are some more sophisticated forces at work here that I might not be noticing. So when we talk about the importance of communication, it's not just talking, it's all of the communication. And, you know, of course, we want to say that good and healthy communication is largely verbal. There's not a lot of relying on mind reading and these different things. We want to encourage people to use their words like they're grown-ups. But it's important to listen to everything that people are saying. And if people are not wanting to talk to you about something, that they're saying something right there. So,
not to mention their facial reactions, their micro expressions, their hesitations. There's so much. Most of our communication is not speaking. And someone. Why do I hear a ice cream truck?
Okay, all right. So some technical difficulties.
If someone is telling you that they have a, oh yeah, I'm really, really into you and you really turn me on, and then, maybe they're not really feeling it and you're doing things, you might be doing something wrong. It's like, I'm really into you, but maybe don't use teeth. Could be a thing.
That's an important thing to be able to say. So yeah, communication covers all manner of sins, I suppose.
Or maybe don't use teeth there.
Okay, so that was a little bit of a marathon sprint.
Yeah.
Easing back a little bit. I am very eager to hear from y'all. I'm going to let you start, Eric. What is your confession? What is the thing that you wish that you as a progressive, as somebody who cares about these important things, has started to realize you've had a blind spot?
This is the part of the show I've been looking forward to all night.
Okay. So for those of you in the audience, almost word for word, what Christy said was, what is something you didn't learn until way, way, way too late? And you might be embarrassed about, or that just you had no idea that it was your blind spot. And so here's confession time. Toxic masculinity, actually. And I really didn't learn about it until last year.
Okay. Yeah. So what does that mean for you? What's surprising?
So what happened was I was getting involved and, long story short, there was a tragedy that happened. There was someone who had killed themselves and killed their partner. And I recognized it as a tragedy, and it was something that really affected a lot of people that I deeply care about.
Sure.
And I was talking to Daryl Ray about it, and he said, I really want to talk about toxic masculinity. And I didn't know what that was. For some reason, there's some part that just didn't learn about that.
Yeah.
And what I researched, what I found was, in this case, the idea that the man owns the relationship, this cultural idea that you own your partner or that you have the rights over another person's body is something that's so deeply ingrained that even after you leave faith, you don't realize that your society has informed these actions that are so fucking toxic.
Yeah.
The idea that as a man, you're not supposed to cry. I had a partner tell me, you're not supposed to cry, and I didn't cry for the better part of 6 years. I mean, the way that we treat each other, and I think that that's especially poignant having 3 dudes in front of the camera when we don't even realize that we're propping up these horrible things with each other. These ideas of what is, you know, a stereotypical masculinity. You know, what is it to be a man? You know, you have to, you know, forego having emotions. You can't cry. You have to have these ownership types of things, and just all of these different pieces that make up toxic masculinity, these pieces. I
mean, even just the way we all sat down at this table when we first got here, before having to realize, like, oh, okay, in order to get everybody on screen, we're going to have to squoosh in, because guys are just like pretty comfortable taking up space. Yeah. We're raised to feel a little bit entitled to a lot of room.
And so would you say, though, because I see this all over the internet where there's people pushing back against this notion of toxic masculinity, and it's almost like it's toxic to be a man, and it's all these, you know, misandristic man haters who are saying, you know, like,
in our society nowadays it's illegal to be strong,
you can't be like, you know, bold or whatever.
That absolutely misses the point.
Not all masculinity is toxic, but toxic masculinity is everywhere.
And also, what an overreaction to say you can't be that when we live in a society that I just freaking learned that you can actually don't have to be that. You know, I meet all of these amazing people here at the ACA, and it seems like it's something that everybody I knew about, and I just didn't. You know, at what point, if I heard somebody say, "Oh, you can't do that anymore," I'm glad I didn't hear that before I learned about it, because I would have no freaking clue what was going on. Yeah. Not even learning about the idea of toxic masculinity in the first place, and then going on to say, "Oh no, we made this huge leap in the other direction." I see it everywhere.
It'd be like if someone said, like, "Oh, real men don't cry," and you're like, "Actually, I'm a real man. I do whatever the fuck I want."
Seriously. I am a real man, and I you know, generally wear nail polish, and I have this, you know, long hair and this girly name, and you know, I get to be that kind of man, and toxic masculinity is the voice that says, like, no, you know, you got to toughen up, you got to be something else.
You have to abide by these societal norms, when the fact is we're learning more and more that on this spectrum, it doesn't even make sense. And to close yourself off entirely to your emotions and to other people, and to force yourself into a role when, you know, we've talked about this before. I think all 3 of us have pieces of nurturer and caregiver and kind. And I mean, knowing you 2 personally, you're 2 of the sweetest people I know, you know, and that doesn't necessarily fall in with, you know, what toxic masculinity is
allowed,
pushed out. Yeah. And,
yeah, so
I was always taught to, you know, to behave as a gentleman, and part of that was respecting other people's choices. And if someone's personal choice for how they carry themselves or how they dress or what they do, if it doesn't fall in line with what your preconceived notions and, you know, preconceptions of what it means to be their specific gender is, that's still their goddamn choice. Yeah. And that's still something that, if you're actually going to behave like a decent human being, you accept and you acknowledge, and you know what? It doesn't affect you. Yeah. So it's, you know, I think what I've kind of gathered from, you know, the internet's notion, the kind of mainstream, you know, triggered angry notion of, you know, oh, you're just, you know, misandristic, and you don't, you know, you think that to be masculine is to be toxic, versus what it actually is it's taking things like bullying, and it's saying that's not healthy masculinity. That's a toxic side of these stereotypes of, you know,
and we've
masculinity. Would you say that's it's like by criticizing anything that any man has ever done, you're suddenly saying that all men are bad. That's the message that 4chan is taking when they're, you know, calling everybody cucks and, you know, creating issues. I'm confident bringing in. I was just about to say the comment section is about to get real explosive around here.
Yeah, before we hit that, because I have a thing to say about that. But the first thing, kind of as a last piece on that, is we are teaching it to each other. I mean, it's not something that is coming from outside. You know, it's coming from men learning to bully other men. Yeah, and it's ridiculous. It's not
once
even that
men
we're being
learn how to be bullies
from the outside.
Once men learn how to be bullies, they bully women. You know, it's so
it's part
gross
of it.
and
It's
trite.
part of it.
But toxic masculinity hurts men, and then hurt people.
Yeah.
So it does filter down is maybe a bizarre way of looking at it, but women are overwhelmingly affected by this as well. And it's devastating for the men who don't feel like they have a lot of choices, and for anybody who has to be around those men.
And I'm just going to tie this back to the secular and secular sexuality, that where I went to church, right? When you said your wedding vows, you were saying that the woman is to serve the husband, and the husband is to lead the family. You know, you were actually putting it into a written structure that says, no, it is supposed to be like this. And so you've validated these notions of masculinity. And the whole cuck thing, man, you know what? Their kink is not my
whole other
kink,
episode,
but their kink is okay.
Yeah.
If somebody's into that, I cannot imagine somebody who's actually into that going online and being like, "Aw."
Yeah. Well,
Why is that
it's
a
an
pejorative?
insult
You know
for.
what I mean?
Yeah, it's really used as an insult for anybody who would allow another man to take away their woman, because that's
some
what
people
women
are
are,
into
is
that.
possessions. Well, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean,
let them be into that. Why is that
We'll
pejorative?
mention
Let me just
Dr.
shatter-
David Lay in his books on the subject in the footnotes. But yeah, that's a real kink, but it's thrown around as a way of accusing somebody of being weak because they're letting their resources be pillaged by other men.
Let me shatter that misconception right here. Imagine for a second that there is a massive 6'8", 300-pound, built out UFC fighter. Nobody fucks with this guy, right? He's kind of the pinnacle of big.
I'm scared to see where we're going with this.
Okay. But imagine
I'm a little excited to find out.
Imagine that this UFC fighter has a cuck kink.
Okay.
And he's like, okay,
cool.
If someone were to come into my bedroom and have sex with my wife, I could literally smash this person's face in and completely destroy them. Okay, this is in no ways a weak person. This is in no way someone who is, kind of a beta male, kind of weak, whatever. This is, but that's his thing. And he's like, you know what? Like, I love my wife. I trust my wife. Like, we're opening up the bedroom. We're having a good time. We're having fun. And, I am so confident and so secure in myself and in our relationship that I just get off to this. And, watching her get pleasure. Is that, how is the stereotype of cuck really doesn't fit that situation at all. It crumbles. Well, but that is an actual legitimate thing that I'm sure happens in many cases.
You've already spent more time thinking about this than most of the people that are screaming all caps beta male cuck bullshit on.
That's because I analyze everything.
Yeah, I mean, and
that's why I trust you as a person.
As soon as you bring in the idea that you don't own another person. You don't own them, you don't own their sex, you don't own their bodies. And what you want to do together as partners, what you want to do, with that relationship or the way that you want to express your sex is completely up to you. And that's absolutely fine, which is always why it just kind of blew my mind. So I had to put a pin. I'm sorry I derailed the show, but I kind of had to stick a pin in that because
So by this same nature, someone said, can we not put endorsement of toxic masculinity exclusively on men, please? Like, there are elements of this that women can do as well.
Oh, yeah, it's society.
And I think that there are societal norms that are toxic for femininity as well.
Oh, yeah.
No. I mean, a quick trip to the grocery store checkout aisle will confirm all of that. Yeah. These are big topics, but I think we're noticing that, this is something that you've been maybe blind to, even if you've understood that, women are, just that men have very limited roles in society.
Yeah. So, okay.
All right. As we're getting closer and closer to time, I can't let Thomas walk out of here without telling me yours.
What is your confession?
So my confession, really, I blame on having missionary parents and dial-up internet.
All right. Some pixelated boobies in your past? Or where are we going?
Very slow.
So my upbringing when it comes to sex was very much of this narrow, if you have sex, you will get pregnant. If you get pregnant before marriage, there's a good chance you'll die or something, or if you get an abortion, you're going to die, or, condoms don't work. It was very, very, very shoddy sex ed. So the caller who was asking, or someone was asking earlier, as far as sex education goes, if there was some type of crash course for that, maybe I need to just make a video about sex ed for people in a hurry. But that was my upbringing. I had no clue. I didn't have the slightest clue. So when my dad sat me down and had the sex talk with me as a kid, And I had this idea that, okay, the man sticks his penis inside of a woman's vagina and then just the magic happens, okay? I had no idea the dynamics involved. I had no idea, like, how any of that happened. So in my mind, there was no movement. You just kind of lay there, like, flat.
Soaking.
Right? You just kind of, you know, you stick it in and then just, like, God makes, you know, the stuff, you know, just do its thing, okay? So I remember watching the World Cup, or some, you know, soccer game late at night, and, you know, since I'm overseas, it's like 2 in the morning, and that's when, you know, they had uncensored TV and stuff. So I was like watching the show, and all of a sudden there's boobies, and all of a sudden there's a sex scene, but it was a slow-mo sex scene, and the girl's boobs start like jiggling, but they're just doing it in slow motion. So I was like, oh my God, when you stick your penis into a woman, her boobs just start going bounce. Like waves. Just like, it was like just this hydraulic like wave motion.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, whoa.
Like women are basically water beds.
And then to make matters worse, I only had dial-up internet. So I could never actually watch porn. It would just like get like these images that would load, you know, like they'd load like one line at a time. You know, you see like the pixels going across, and then, yes, I got another line. I'm almost to the nipple. Just 5 more minutes. And then it disconnects and you have to redial. It's like, so you can forget about any kind of like actual video clip or any kind of, you know, actual porn to see like, oh, they're actually moving. And it wasn't until probably late, either late in high school or kind of mid to late high school when I realized that there's actual motion going on in sex and there's different positions. It was just, nope, you just plop down, you kind of sit there and like the boobs do the wavy action and, you know, the sperm goes in the woman and she gets pregnant and first time you conceive, you know, and that's that. So yeah, I had a very, very backwards sex education. I've had to do a lot of research and catch up just to figure it out. But that's my confession. I don't think I've ever told that to anyone before until on air. So you're welcome.
Wow, thank you, man. I can't help but imagine that sex, like your idea of sex, just kept getting better and better and better over time. like it's just upgrading over time.
I was terrified because I had this notion that like if you have sex outside of marriage, like by the 2nd or 3rd time you'd have AIDS. Like it was just kind of this notion. It was just this fear-based idea was drilled into me. It's not
basically AIDS roulette. Yeah. Yikes. So. All right.
But to anyone who's watching this who is like, you know, oh, I had no sex ed growing up. Don't worry. There are websites with lots of educational material. There are places where you can learn even if your parents were too prude to talk about it or if all that they talked about was the biblical side of it. There's a whole lot of information out there to be learned. You're not alone. So.
Yeah, I guess the too long didn't read on all of that is sex, kind of basically almost anything, definitely more than you're thinking right now.
Yes, and you're never too old to learn, and there shouldn't be shame in learning at whatever time you do.
No question. No question.
Shannon Q wrote, LimeWire changed my life. That was actually how I learned about sex.
Oh my gosh. LimeWire.
Yeah, because my parents.
Yeah. Dude, yes.
Yeah. My parents put Covenant Eyes on my computer, which was software that saw like every single
nanny monitor thing.
Nanny bot. Yeah. And it would see what websites you went to. But LimeWire was encrypted. So all you would see is LimeWire file dot whatever. And I was like, this is amazing. I found a way around Covenant Eyes.
I'm hacking.
I just go online, dial up, you know, and like 2 in the morning. And then by morning time, I'd have this, you know, very pixelated, you know, 20 megabyte file that would download. It's like, I think that's a boob.
Oh my gosh, I can imagine young you as like a 90s hacker, you know, just, you know, typing away, hammering at the keys, sweating, just.
It's amazing. I didn't learn how to program till college.
Young Hugh Jackman. Yeah, I love it.
Nice. All right. Well, so much to tackle there. I honestly wouldn't even know where to start. So I'm just going to pivot.